An ethics investigation is underway into a contract awarded to Alberta's former Chief Medical Officer of Health and then rescinded. A former Alberta Health Services Vice President says he left over concerns the Premier interfered in the hiring process. CTV's Shaylan Skalski reports.
This, to me, was the most egregious example of reaching into the system, and it's actually a reminder of why we need an independent healthcare system.
Former Alberta Health Services Executive Dr. Braden Mans resigned from his position last June over concerns of political interference from the Premier's office. According to Dr. Mans, Dr. Deena Hinshaw was hired to work in Indigenous wellness after a comprehensive search. He outlines that process in his 6-page resignation letter to Dr. John Cowell.
Expressed that Premier was not supportive in any way of Dr. Hinshaw's hiring and that we couldn't proceed.
The letter goes on to say you said that you would reach out to Marshall Smith, the Premier's Chief of Staff, as you felt that he could change the Premier's mind.
I put Dr. Cowell in place to make these decisions. I talked with him on a weekly basis. We talked about staffing decisions a lot.
When asked about allegations of interference, the Premier avoided detailing her role, saying it was up to Dr. Cowell.
And he always made it clear that the decisions by HS were made by HS.
Cowell was supportive of the hiring in advance, and I know that after those discussions took place, the next day I was asked to rescind.
When asked about the allegations, an AHS spokesperson told CTV News AHS does not speak to personnel matters. A letter from Alberta's Ethics Commissioner to Dr. Mans confirms an investigation is underway pertaining to the revocation of the appointment of Dr. Hinshaw to a position with the Alberta Health Services Indigenous Wellness Corps.
This is a Premier that clearly has a track record and a habit of politically interfering where she is legally prohibited from doing so.
The NDP says the Premier's actions erode public trust and hurt the healthcare system, while others caution against having a Premier with the ability to veto public sector hiring.
Is the Premier solely responsible for any firing decisions with anything related to the public sector? So are we talking individual doctors?
Shaylan Skalski, CTV News, Edmonton.
The Premier says she will deliver on a tax break she promised during the election. However, Albertans may have to wait several years before seeing the full amount.
We have to be mindful that we have to phase in a tax cut over to ensure that we also don't end up getting back into deficit. That's our number one framework.
The UCP promised to reduce the provincial income tax by 8% for people making $60,000 a year or less. Today, the Premier said she's working with her finance minister on a timeline. Smith says the price of oil needs to be factored in and alluded to it taking up to 3 years. She says details will be announced in the next budget at the end of February.